Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Happy New Year. It is 2018 and I feel so blessed to be back here again with you guys to do another video. Yeah, I'm really excited for this year. Like I've been telling my friends and family, this is the first year where it actually feels like it's the start of something rather than the continuation of the previous year. I'm setting goals and I really have control over my time and what I'm setting aside to do for the year, and so I just feel very humbled and just, you know, really accepting of the abundance and prosperity that the universe has set up for me this year. You know, I may not know what's coming, but I feel it, and so I'm just ready to embrace it. As you can see, some new things have transpired since the last time we've chatted it up, so yeah, I'm just ready to share this journey with you guys. But first and foremost, back to the first video of the year. Yes! I'm in my room, on the phone. One moment. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So yeah, I wasn't really sure of what I wanted this video to be, but as I started thinking of, you know, the new year and people making their resolutions and their plans for what they have to do or what they want to accomplish for the year, I feel like I sort of wanted to do something that would aid in that. I feel like no matter how old you are, what, you know, point in your journey you're on, whether you're a student, whether you're an educator, whether you're, you know, a 9-to-5er, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're just big ballin', shot calling Big Willie, you know, on a yacht somewhere, I feel like whatever you do, whatever resolutions, whatever goals you set, reading and educating yourself should be a part of that. You know, I'm not knocking anybody that hasn't set any reading goals or any aspirations to read, but I know how much reading has sort of set me up for life and has expanded my mind to so many other opportunities and, you know, abundance and just new things and just feeling better about myself and my situation in my life, that I feel like anyone who is looking to seek a change, that is looking to better themselves, needs to read, hands down. Whether it's to read at least one new thing a year, or whether it's to read 100, or whether it's to make sure that you know, learn one new thing a year. I feel like reading should be a part of that. So with that being said, I wanted this first video to be a sort of tips and tricks to what you can do to be more improved in your reading. Now, we live in the day and age of technology, but at times it's very difficult to be able to filter what you're bringing into oneself, what you're bringing into your mind, what you're hearing and what you're repeating and things like that. And so we get caught up in all of that, but you can always control what you read. You can always control what you choose to, you know, pour into your mind as far as literary stances are concerned. When I originally sat down, I had sort of like, I think 7 or 8 tips, but I feel like some of them sort of piggybacked on one another, so I kind of narrowed those down. I have several written down, but I may only include the ones that I feel are key to what I'm saying. Okay, so I feel like the most important tip or rule to the game when it comes to being more improved in your reading is to put it in your schedule. That is number one. You need to put it in your schedule. You know, I keep a planner, you know, I have Google Calendar, you know, I keep like little notebooks around just jotting down to-do lists and things like that. But I feel like unless you write it down somewhere and block out time for it, you're not going to do it. You know, when you have a hair appointment, what happens? You set a time, you set a day, you say, yep, we're good on all fronts, and you go and it gets done. You know, when you go to the gym, you say, hey, I'm going to the gym right after work. You pack your bag, you got your little protein shakes, whatever, and you go. So the same thing has to happen for your reading. If this is a goal that you want to do, if this is something that you want to increase and be more consistent with, first things first is to make time. Whether it be in the morning when you first wake up, you know, whether you read something in the middle of the day during your lunch break, or whether you say read it at nighttime. You know, you and the kids read a book together and then you go into your room and you read your own little section of a book, what have you. But first things first, first tip, first rule, first recommendation from moi is to write it down, put it in a schedule, make a note. Otherwise, you're not going to do it, and you're just going to keep this shoulda, coulda, woulda attitude about a lot of things, not just your reading, unless you make time for it in your schedule. Okay, so the second thing I feel like, and this is something that I struggled with too when I started, back reading heavy for my own interest instead of just school, I sort of was at a loss for what to read. There's a lot of different genres, there's a lot of different new authors out there, and some of us may not have read for pleasure or read something outside of a textbook since high school, so it's like, what do I read? Like, what's out there? Who's popping as an author? And and now we have a lot of book to movie adaptations, so a lot of people just say, oh, I'm gonna skip over the book and just go and see the movie, whereas us book lovers, we know that that's not always the best, seeing as how a lot of times the movie is not a direct reflection of what occurred in the book. However, I will say that is a good place to start. So tip number 2 is that if you're unsure of what to read or who you like to read, I would say start with your movies. When you find yourself watching a lot of TV, binge watching a lot of shows, and you realize that there's a particular genre that you're drawn to more, if it's sci-fi with Stranger Things or like Vampire Diaries or something like that, then that might be something that you might want to explore as far as reading. Same thing goes if you're a person who's like really into reality TV. You might be more into nonfiction, autobiographies, personal development, or maybe even, starting with a magazine. I don't read magazines like that, but they do have some really good content if you do, happen to stumble upon it. But I would say, a lot of times what we're interested in is reflected in different facets of what we're drawn to. So if you're unsure of what genre to start with or what author to start with, I would say look at what you're watching, look at what you're already inputting, and see if you can find some sort of book or author that has similar taste or falls into that genre. If you're an It person, hello, It was written by, Stephen King. So maybe you might want to start with one of his books. Or if you're really into rom-com as far as movies, like, chick flicks or whatever, then, contemporary YA might be something that you look into. Okay, let's move on. Tip number 3 is to basically find your happy medium. It's a play on words. So basically, why do I keep saying basically? I don't know, I'm gonna just go with it. There's various ways that you can intake a book. Now, I used to be one of those people, and I still sort of am one of those people where it's like, if it's not in my hand, if I can't flip the pages, mark it up, highlight it, throw it in my bag, then I pretty much am not here for it. But I will say that over the past few months, I've really gotten into audiobooks, especially when it comes to personal development. It has been my experience that certain personal development books, when reading it, are very, very dry. And I tend to, get very bored with it and end up not finishing. However, I've noticed that my reading personal development and exploring my own growth in that particular category has increased with the use of audiobooks. Especially because I have such a long commute to and from work. That's a lot of dead time that I was spending, listening to the radio, getting pissed off in traffic. And so my boyfriend, who is Mr. King of audiobooks, he, shared me on his account, and he was like, yo, have at it. So what I started doing was I started listening to the same, personal development and growth books he was listening to. And it totally changed my, outlook on what reading was. And that pretty much, got me more motivated and more pumped to explore my own goals, to, push myself outside of my own sort of box when it came to my reading levels and things like that. Now, I still love me some paperbacks. And I still, dibble and dabble in the hardbacks too. And, as you can see, those tend to be what I buy the most. But I would say find your happy medium, whether it be through audiobooks, while you're doing the dishes, whether it be through physical books. People have, Kindles and things like that. Some people don't have, the luxury of spending, umpteenth amounts of dollars on a newly released book. So you might end up having to go to a library book sale, or, you know, just check out a book from the library and then return it once you're done. So I would say find the system that works best for you. Don't ever feel like because, you know, other people do it this way that you have to do it the way that they do it, right? And, you know, some people read books on their phones. Like, whatever works best for you, figure it out. And it will make your reading experience that much more enjoyable because you don't feel obligated to do it a certain way. Like I always tell my students, we all see things and perceive the world around us differently. And we all, you know, receive information differently. And it's the same way. So if you're a visual learner, you know, graphic novels might be more of your thing. You know, if you're a person who listens to something and then sort of like I used to be, drown it out and you end up thinking about other things, you might not want to start off with an audiobook, especially if it's something that's really dense. You might want to start off with something small, like a poetry book, or you might want to start off with something that's more of YA or contemporary that's fast-paced. What number are we on? I would say number 4 tip from me is to, so this is sort of like I would say a step to the side on the last one, you know, finding your happy medium out, and also with the whole finding time. I would say always bring something to read with you. Yeah, that was supposed to be like a period, but it came out like a ... I do this, you know, it's easier with paperbacks, but you know, some people are prone to carrying around the hardback books. But I would say always having something with you to read, because you never know when you're going to have downtime, and you never know when you're just going to be sitting there idle. And then the first thing we do is we go on Facebook, we go on Instagram, Twitter, we're checking, and we're just sort of like numbing ourselves down until we're like intellectually re-engaged again. If you're a person who wants to read X amount of books, or you want to read as much as possible, bringing something with you for the downtime would be something that I would recommend. Now, if you're someone like me and, you know, lunch break is not always guaranteed, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just be working through that joint and then you realize, here come 4 or 5 o'clock and you haven't eaten. That may not be always the case where you have time during the middle of your day just to sit down, crack open a book and read it. Simple. But if you are, you know, an individual who has a set break time, or, you know, towards the end of your day it starts getting kind of dry, and you just, rather than pull out your phone and become, you know, engaged in that, I would say have something with you to read. Number 5, I would say this is what makes it really fun for me, and that is to have something to talk about. Having something to talk about whilst you're reading is what really got me more hype and engaged. So the person that I talk to about my books the most is my boyfriend. And, you know, he'll read something and, you know, he'll start quoting stuff from the book, and he'll start saying, yo, you gotta really check out this piece because he's spitting fire or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. Oh, look at this new book I'm reading, you know, this is what's happening, you know, it's really similar to this, you know, I really like the message it's bringing out, you know, sort of having that person or that group that you can go to and discuss your books with, discuss your experiences with a book and your reading. And that's one of the main reasons I sort of started this channel initially, is because I became obsessed with the BookTube community and how engaged they were in their reading and how excited they were to read, and the new books and the new authors, and sort of like the new things that I was getting to learn through others' BookTube channels. And so that's what sort of got me into it, is because I wanted something to talk about when I was reading. I want to go back and forth with people and hear their thoughts and opinions on it, and, you know, get recommendations, so that way, you know, it's sort of like this community that you build up. And a lot of times we don't try new things because there's no one around us that's doing it, and so we feel like either it's not that important, or, you know, we would sort of not have anyone to hold us accountable to it. So sometimes you're not going to have that person, you know, not necessarily, you know, I have my boyfriend, but not all the time are we on the same page with our reading, or we don't always talk about our books. So, and it's not every day that I pick up the phone and call one of my girlfriends, like, girl, I just read this book and da-da-da. You know, it'd be cool, it'd be nice if we did that, but we really don't. So I would say find you a community or somewhere where you can go, you know, to where you can actually talk about it, or even start one of yourself. You know, just chit chat with your coworker, like, hey girl, what you reading? And then go from there. If you're a person that's really not sure, really not into reading, I feel like having someone that you can be like an accountability partner for, or be comfortable with talking about your reading and what you're reading, I think that might help to really set your experience apart from what others have tried with their reading. Yeah. I think I'm going to end it here. Number 6, lucky number 6. My last tip and tricks to improving your reading, I would say, is do not prolong your agony, people. I have myself been a victim of some ain't shit ass books. No offense to the authors or anything like that, but there have been times where I have put myself in a reading slump with, for those of you who don't know, is when you read something and then after you're done, you just don't feel like reading anymore, and then you go on a hiatus for like weeks or months to where you don't pick up anything, or you don't finish anything, or you don't find anything interesting. That's like a reading slump. A lot of times when I end up putting myself into reading slumps, it's because I'm reading something that I'm literally pulling my own teeth to finish. I'm just not enjoying it. You know, it's either not the right time for me to be reading it, or it's just boring, or I don't get it, or it's moving too slow. And so a lot of times I had to get out of this thing of wanting to finish something first before I moved on. But my tip to you is if you do not like something, or if you're not enjoying your experience reading, do this. Like literally, shut that shit down. Like, you are not obligated. Like, when people go into the writing game and they put their works out there, they already know what it is. Like, not everybody's gonna like your stuff, so they're prepared for that. So you do not owe them anything by finishing a book. Now, if it's your friend or your auntie and they want you to read their stuff, then that's a whole nother subject, and I'm sorry. But if, you know, you just went on a whim, got a book that you heard was cool, or something that seemed to intrigue you at that time, and then you open it up and you're just not here for it, just simply close it and take yourself a mental break, you know, figure out what it is that you didn't like and find something else. And you can either donate that book to someone who might like it, you know, regift it, or you can it might not be that right time for it. Come back to it at a later date and call it a day. Author got their coins. Okay, so don't worry. They'll be fine. You'll be fine. You don't have to finish every book. There's a lot of books on my shelf with the little bent page, and that was the last of that. So that is all that I have for this video. I may come with a second video today just because I'm feeling the energy. So yeah, so just a quick summary of the tips that I have for you guys. The first one, number 1, is to make time for your reading. Put it in your schedule, write it down, make it an actual commitment, and you will go far. You will gain the habit of reading, and then once it's more consistent, you will then enjoy it. The second one is if you do not know where to start with your reading, I would say start with what your interests are. Start to look at your movies and your shows. You know, take recommendations from your friends and family who have similar interests as you, and see where you go from there. I would say, you know, it's all about exploration, but if you're worried that you might read something that's a little out of your comfort zone, I would say start with what you're interested in first and then branch out from there. Number 3 is to find your happy medium. You know, try different ways of reading that you feel that might maximize, you know, your enjoyment of it and also your consistency with it. Always bring something with you. I try my best to have a book of some sort, and whether it be my office at work or carry it in my bag. If you want to maximize how much you read or to improve that, or how quickly you're reading, the best thing to do is to bring it with you. So when you do have downtime, when you do have a break, you are able to read. Number 5 is to give yourself something to talk about. You know, talk to your friends, talk to your families about what you're reading. You know, start a little book club. You know, talk to your significant other. Watch YouTube videos. You know, see what's going on in the BookTube community. Leave comments. You know, like, subscribe to your favorite channels. Do all of that so you feel like you're part of a community of reading, and it helps to keep you more inspired and more motivated to continue with your own reading. And last but not least is to do not prolong your agony. You are not required to finish every book that you start, and you do not owe the authors anything as far as you just trying to pick up their book. right? You know, this experience is for you and you alone, right? What you take out of a book, what you learn, what you read, what you enjoy is all for you. So do not feel like just because one book did not do it for you that they're all going to be like that, or just because, you know, your favorite author bombed doesn't mean that you can't pick up other things. So I don't want you guys to feel like under the pressure of having to read a certain amount or a certain number of books or a certain type of book to be qualified as a good reader. Yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe if you feel the need to do so, and I'll be back with you guys later. Happy 2018, and you guys take care. Bye. The perils that will surely come.